Hey everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter, and you are joining me for the last project in my cute as can be card class at home. It is April 24th, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator on Vancouver Island in Canada. So tonight, like I said, it is the fourth and final project in this series, and it's a fun fold. So I'm going to be using the Cute as Can Be Designer Series paper. It's been the feature of all the cards, but I'm also going to use the Be My Valentine stamp set, and I'm using the Happy Birthday Sentiment from the Best Family Ever stamp set. Now, this one I think was in the last chance section on the website, so it may be gone already. I'm sad it's going to go because I think it was really handy. All right, so let's get going. If you're crafting along with me tonight, you are going to need your paper trimmer and whatever you use to score. I'm just going to lift my camera up just a smidge so you can better see my paper trimmer, and I'll lower that down after we do the scoring. Hello, Kate. All right, so I'll go through all the pieces. First off, I've got a piece of Old Olive, and this is going to be the card base. It is 4 1/4 by 5 3/8, and then I've got another piece of Old Olive, and this is 2.5 inches by 7 inches. And then I've got a piece of the Designer Series paper. This is 3 3/4 by 4 1/8. And 4 strips of the Cute as Can Be Designer Series paper. These are 5/8 by 4 1/8. There's a lot. There's a lot in this card. There's a lot. All right, I've got 4 little pieces of the Designer Series paper. Now these are 1 by 1.5. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Janice. And then I've got 2 more pieces of the Designer Series paper that's just a little bit bigger. And these are 1 by 1 3/4. I've gone ahead and I've cut out 3 of the honeycomb shapes in different sizes. The basic white is the smallest honeycomb shape in the meant to be dies. Petunia Pop is the second smallest, and then Old Olive is the third smallest. What else do I have? There's so many pieces. All right. Then, out of the meant to be dies that coordinate with the stamps and the paper, I cut out 3 little flowers out of Petunia Pop. And somewhere I had fussy cut a tiny little bee. Oh, here he is. I fussy cut out a tiny little bee out of the paper as well. All right, so those are all the measurements. Hello, Debbie. And we are going to do some scoring and some cutting. So I'm just going to put my paper off to the side here so I don't mess it up or lose it. And let's start with our card base. And again, this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I meant to come home after work and do a little practice card because I did this card at the start of April. So I said, I'm going to get home from work. I'm going to practice once, so I'm not going to mess up. And then I don't know what happened. There was an accident on my way home from work, and what normally takes me about 50 minutes took me 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I just got home about 20 minutes ago. Anyway, so no practice. I'll try not to lead you astray, though. I'm pretty sure I can do it. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Teresa from Arizona. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Debbie, another Debbie. All right, so grab your base. That's 4 1/4 by 5 3/8, and we're going to score this twice. So on the 5 3/8 side, so we've got the long side, I'm going to score this at 3/4. So I'm just going to score at 3/4. I'm going to flip it around so I'm still on the 5 3/8 side, and I'm going to score it again at 3/4. All right, so this little base has got two score lines now at 3/4 of an inch on either of the long side. Whew. All right, one done. Jennifer, you made the tater tot casserole. Yeah, it is good. It is so good. I'm glad you told me that. Now we're going to do some scoring on this piece that is 2.5 by 7. So on the 7-inch side, we've got the long side. We're going to score it 4 times. So our first score is 3/4, and then 2.5, 4.5. I'm going to have to write these down for you guys because I can't expect you to remember what I'm doing. This is 4.5, and then one more. I got to open up my paper trimmer. One more at 6.25. All right. So I've scored this on the long side at 3/4, 2.5, 4.5 is 6.25. Now, let me grab my marker. I'm just going to write it down for you guys so you can take a screenshot. So on our base, you're going to score the long side. I should have done this before. See, this is what happens when I get stuck in traffic. Score the long side at 3/4 of an inch. Flip that card over and repeat. So you've got 2 scores. Now, I'll speed this up. I can be a speed writer. On the 7-inch side of our second piece, you're going to score at 3/4, 2.5. I have to look at my notes. 4.5 and 6.25. Okay, so take a screenshot if you must, if you need to. I'm going to move my camera so you can see it a little bit better. All right. Now, what we're going to do, one more thing to do. So with this piece of paper that's 2.5 by 7 inches, we're going to cut it right down the middle on the 2.5-inch side. So we're cutting it at half, which means we are cutting it at 1.25. So just cut that right down the middle at 1.25. All right, so now we've got 2 pieces like so. That's all we need the paper trimmer and scorer for. All right, Kate, yes, I do use a regular Sharpie, and then I just grab some rubbing alcohol and I scrub it off after. Hey, Donna from Okotoks, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm glad to see you here. Jennifer, you used plant-based crumbled instead of beef in your tater tot casserole. I bet that was just as tasty. All right, hello, Dimity. I am probably saying that wrong. Dimity from Darwin, Australia, and Jackie. Okay, so now, before we get any further, we're going to work with our card base. So on the score lines, now I'm just going to bring my camera down a scooch. I still want you to see what I wrote down, so I'm going to adjust my glass mat. So on our score lines, we're just going to fold them in. Now, if you like to use a bone folder, then use a bone folder, flatten your edges out. I don't need a bone folder. My fingers just do fine, so I don't worry about that. And then we're going to, whoops, I dropped my glue. We're just going to glue down some of our pattern papers. So our little busy swarm of bees is going to go right in the middle of this paper. Hey, Judy, thanks for tuning in. Now, this is 3 3/4 by 4 1/8. You know what? I didn't have time to check my glue. I might be almost out. I have to see. It could be clogged. It could be out. I'm in a tizzy. I wasn't even sure I was going to make it home. The traffic was crawling. We had a detour and everybody was detouring. Hello, Christine. So I work in the city in Victoria on Vancouver Island, and I commute from the city back to East Souk. I'm just getting a new glue bottle. Anyway, so usually takes, when I leave work at 4 o'clock, it usually takes just maybe 50 minutes to an hour to get home because traffic's already pretty heavy. It's pretty congested. But today I was like 15 minutes from home and I hit a detour because there was an accident. So I hope everybody was okay. But everybody trying to get to East Souk and Souk from either Langford or Victoria was going the same way I was going. So it was really jammed up. Anyway, I made it. I made it. Oh, good. I'm glad I said that right, Dimity, because I never know. I never know. I'm not the best at pronunciation. I'm actually quite embarrassed about that. I wish I was better. Sometimes I have to ask my son how to pronounce the hard words. Hello, Lorraine from Chilliwack. You are not late. We're just getting started. All right, so I've glued this down to the inside of our base, so it's right in between the score lines. And then we're going to take 2 of these little strips. Now these are 5/8 of an inch by 4 1/8, and we're going to glue that to the sides of our card base. So far, so good, friends. I haven't messed up, even though I was convinced I needed to have a little practice make with this fun fold before we got started. But so, full disclosure, I've only made this once before, this particular fun fold. But if I can do it, then everybody can do it. Definitely. All right, so I've just glued that pattern paper down to the side of the card base, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Oh, I don't mean to be blocking these score line measurements. My bad. All right, so what I'll do is after the live, I post to YouTube, and then I'll post a picture of the finished comments along with the measurements photo and a link to the YouTube video for replay in the comments. And I will also add in that post, I'll also add the score lines, just in case. All right, hello, Lisa from FL. I'm going to guess that's Florida. So now our base looks like this. And we are going to work with these 2 pieces that we cut. So just go ahead and fold in on your score lines. Again, I'm not going to use a bone folder. I don't need to. And then these are going to go at the top and bottom of our card base, like so. But before I glue them down, it's going to be easier if I glue on the pattern paper. So the 2 pieces of designer series paper that are 1 3/4 are going to go in the very middle, and then the smaller little rectangles that are 1 by 1.5 are going to go on the sides, like so. So if this is too much green on green, old olive on old olive, then just flip your designer series paper around or use a different pattern that you like better. All right, Brenda, hello. Deb from Alabama, hello. All right, so I'm just going to start gluing these pieces on. Now, you might hear my husband and my son coming and going. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear them. I can hear them outside. They are barbecuing, and they come in and out of the house, and they slam the door because they're boys. Because they're boys. Hello, my friend Karen. Hello, Judy from Indiana. Anyway, so I think me getting home late is a little bit hard on everybody because it feels like I didn't have any downtime, and I said hi and bye. I gotta go do my live. Don't bug me for the next half an hour. I'll see you when I'm done. Anyway, but that's okay. It doesn't happen very often that I get stuck in traffic. All right, so I've glued down the slightly bigger rectangles just into the middle, and I'm going to go to do the same with my remaining 4 squares. So don't worry about the sides of these little strips yet because we are going to cover them, but that is one of the last steps we're going to do. Well, maybe not quite the last, but we'll cover those up after. Well, you don't have to, but I'm going to because it's a little bit polished, or it gives it a little bit more of a polished look. All right, 2 more to go. I'm just trying to line them up so they're all even as best I can. This is funny. So just before we got started, I kept forgetting things and I was up and down the stairs trying to make sure I had everything, and I couldn't for the life of me find my reading glasses, and I just bought a pair. I just bought a pair of brand new reading glasses, and I always give my husband a hard time because he loses his all the time. So he's constantly looking for his reading glasses. He's got about 7 pairs. I don't know where they go. But anyway, I have promptly lost my brand new reading glasses before I even use them. So hopefully they'll turn up, or maybe my husband came across them and just figured they were one of his gazillion pairs of reading glasses. Anyway, it's bugging me. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can almost feel where I put them, but I just can't quite place it. Okay, so let's take one of these strips, and if you line that up with the very top of your card, you can line it up flush to the top of the card, like so, and then just flip it over and add a little bit of glue to those little tabs that are hanging over. And then we're just going to fold them over like so. I'm just turning it around to face me so I can make sure the top is flush. So I folded them over so they are adhering to the back of our base. And now we've got the front of the card that looks like that. We're going to do the exact same thing with this piece here. All right, so just line it up. So these tabs, these little end tabs, they're going to be right at the edges of your card, and they're going to fold over. So once you have that lined up, just add a little bit of glue and a little bit more glue over here. And then we'll fold them over. I just find it a little bit easier if I flip it around so I can make sure that this top piece is like flush right against the top of my card. All right, so Tombo's doing its magic. It's getting sticky already. Hello, Ruth. Thanks for tuning in. So now our card, there's the fun fold part. It sits up like this. So you do have to kind of finagle it a little bit so it's popped up evenly. Just give it a little bit of, I don't know, is finagle a word? I like to finagle my paper so it sits just so. So you might have to move it around a little bit so it looks even. But that's it. That is our fun fold. And then when you put it in the envelope, let's see, do I have an envelope kicking around? I should. It's just going to fold flat and slide right in there, like so. And then you pop it out and floof it up a bit, and there we sit. All right, so the base of our card is done. Thanks, Karen. And now we're just going to do a little bit. Oh, hang on. I need to do something else. So I still got these 2 strips of designer series paper. Now this is optional, but I'm going to glue them on the back side of my base just to cover up those tabs, just to give my card a little bit more of a polished look. Totally optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's up to you. But I got it, so I'm going to do it. Hey, Lena, thanks for tuning in. All right. Oh my goodness, now I can hear them arguing out there. Teenagers, at least my teenager, he's a spitfire. When he gets mad, oh boy, you know it. He can't keep it in. All right. Just going to glue this last piece down. Does anybody else have teenagers or remember the teenage phase? Because sometimes, I don't know what's happening. It's different, right? I remember being a teenager, and I don't remember having a, well, I probably did have a short fuse, but I just didn't express myself. My son has no qualms about expressing himself, so I suppose that's a good thing, right? And I think when I was growing up, that just wasn't a thing. So if I was annoyed with my parents, I never said anything. I just shut it. I just shut it. All right, I've got Petunia Pop and I've got Old Olive. So I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday in Old Olive on my little white honeycomb shape about closer to the top. So I want a little bit of room at the top to place my bee, but I want more room on the bottom because I'm going to stamp some flowers. All right, there we go. Now, oh, I'm going to use the Old Olive again. So I've got the flower stem from the Be My Valentine stamp set. I'm just going to ink this up as well, and I'm going to stamp 3 flowers. I'm just going to change how tall they are just for a little bit of variation. All right, and then that's all I need the Petunia Pop for. Oh, Judy, we were smarter than they are today. Kids don't have any filters. They have big feelings. You're totally right. You're right, Judy. It is big feelings, right? It is big feelings, but all right. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Susan. Okay, so this is the little flower stamp from the Be My Valentine stamp set. I'm going to go ahead and stamp these in Petunia Pop. And then oops, I'm a messy stamper today. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add these, but I'm just going to offset them just a tiny little bit so you can see the Petunia Pop ink underneath the cardstock. And I'm going to use, I just have a few little mini dimensionals left. So I'm just going to use mini dimensionals and I'm going to pop these up right over these flowers, but slightly offset so you can still see some of that pink. All right, this is tricky work. I need longer fingernails for this today. All right, they're just so little. All right, this one's going to go right here. One more. Reverse tweezers would be handy, and I'm staring right at my reverse tweezers and I didn't even grab them. Now, why would I do that? Why would I do it the easy way when I can do it the hard way? Okay, so this is going to get glued down to the Petunia Pop honeycomb. I suppose I could have glued it before I added the flowers, before I popped the flowers up, but it's gonna work. Yeah, I know, Karen, slightly cockeyed. This is a theme for me in general. Okay. There we go. Just going to add that and then mat that down onto the Old Olive. And we're almost done. Just a couple more steps. So I hope you guys try this fun fold, and if you do, post pictures and let me see what you make. Whether or not you're using the cutest can be paper and stamps, it doesn't matter to me. Use whatever you have in your stash and show me what you make, because you guys come up with some great things. All right, that is glued on. Now we're just going to glue this to the very front of our card base. So what we want to be mindful of is just putting a little bit of glue at the top of that green honeycomb shape and at the bottom. It does not need very much, just a smidge. And actually, I should double check. Yes, you can. You might want to be careful. Just don't put your glue straight across. Like leave about a quarter inch away from the sides of that honeycomb shape, just to make sure you don't glue that card down. So you can see where I've glued it. I've just got I've got a little bit of a gap there. So I've given myself lots of room. I'm going to flatten out my card, and I trust that I haven't put too much glue on it. So I'm not going to glue my card shut. So I have some faith. And then I'm just going to press that down and let the glue get sticky. Oh no, I just smudged glue on the front of this card. It's a Kate card, friends. There's a smudge. All right, so this is glued on. You can see my little smudge, so that's glue. I've got a glue eraser that will make short work of that once it's completely dry. But I've got a little bee that's going to cover it anyway, so I have no worries. I'm just going to pop a bee right over top of that smudge mark. I don't know how I do this every time, and you'll never even know it's there. Okay, so the bee is on. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my low profile dots. They're stuck in here. And I am just going to add some of the petal pink low profile dots right into the middle of my flowers. Like so. You know what? You do see, I don't see where that message went. I just got a message from somebody. These are my old glasses. They're not as strong as my new ones. I decided I needed just slightly stronger, but that's okay. I'll find them. I'll find them. It just bothers me that I can't remember where I put things, right? All right, there it is. Card number 4 in the Cutest Can Be card class at home. Now, totally optional. If Old Olive is too dark and you want to write a message on the back of the card, just cut a piece of basic white that's the same measurements as that designer series paper on the inside. That's, what was that? 3 3/4 by 4 1/8, and then you can just glue it right on the back if you wanted to add a message and you didn't want to write on a darker color. So that's an option. So there we have it. That is project number 4. Let's do a little recap. This was the fun fold from last week, our 3rd project in this series, which is pretty cute. And then the 2nd one we did. And I still think the first one's my favorite. I think it's because the Petunia Pop in the black. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna flip the card around. Oh my gosh, I'm flipping the camera around. All right, you're gonna get a big shot of my messy room because I am still prepping card kits for my in-person class on Sunday. Registration is over. I cut it off, so now all I have to do is make all the card kits. I know exactly how many people are coming. So back here in 8 baskets are 8 different designs with different stamp sets, different colors. So I will show you guys all the projects, but not today because I do have people coming to the in-person class that I don't want to spoil the surprise yet. Anyway, if you make this, please let me see what you're making. And some of you are still getting card kits for this class. They're going to come in the mail this weekend. I'm going to pop them in the mail, and you will be able to recreate all of these cards with the replay on YouTube. So I'll just send you the playlist and you'll have it handy. You don't have to search for it, and you'll be getting all the pieces to make all the things. You'll just need to supply your own stamps and ink and glue, of course. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. I do hope, hey Tina, thanks for tuning in. I do hope that you all enjoyed the Cutest Can Be class. There will be another card class at home starting up in May. I haven't decided what I'm going to use yet, but I have to decide really quick. So stay tuned this weekend. I will decide what it's going to be and I'll make a post. And again, if you don't have what I'm using, just use what's in your stash and follow along because they're going to turn out perfect, right? All right, friends, I will see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed this class.